Okay, so let's get into this. I want to start today with a question that, honestly, it kind of stopped me in my tracks when I was reading through our material for this deep dive.
Hmm.
It's a really provocative one, especially if you've, ever been involved in any kind of nonprofit work or community building.
Let's hear it.
The question is this. What if the most scalable, effective mission strategy isn't some massive national program? What if it's not about a bigger budget or a louder campaign?
It's a really counterintuitive thought, isn't it?
Totally.
Because we live in a world that is, it's absolutely obsessed with bigger is better.
Right. We want the stadium events, the big fundraisers.
Exactly. But the source material we're looking at today argues that the secret to true scale to actually changing a nation might be a structure so simple that ordinary people can replicate it.
In ordinary places, which to me feels like a direct response to a problem we see everywhere, the burnout problem.
Oh, constantly.
I mean, how many times have we seen a great initiative launch with all this energy only to just fizzle out 2 years later because the main person got tired?
And the source material diagnoses that burnout in a really fascinating way. It suggests that traditional initiatives, they tend to grow upward.
Upward. What does that mean?
We build institutions, we build complexity, we centralize everything. And what happens?
You get a bottleneck.
You get a bottleneck. Everything starts to depend on a few, overextended leaders at the top. And when they get tired or the money runs out, the whole thing just collapses. It's so fragile.
So the alternative they're pushing is this idea of multiplying local mission clubs.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, when I first saw that phrase, I thought, okay, another club program.
Right.
But when you dig into the philosophy, it's not about recruiting more volunteers for your big event. It's about flipping the entire model. It's moving from that upward growth to outward growth.
That is the core shift.
Yeah.
The whole mission becomes creating a structure that's simple enough for, say, a student, a young person, to replicate in their own school, or the text mentioned this specifically, in their own barangay, their own neighborhood.
And that was the aha moment for me. The goal isn't how many people can we get to come to our thing. It's how many mission efforts can we empower other people to build on their own. It's a shift from being a container to being a catalyst.
And to really get that, we have to talk about the first major distinction the sources make, and it's a big one. The difference between expansion and multiplication.
Yeah, this is critical because I think we use those words, interchangeably.
We do, but here they mean two very different things.
Okay, break it down for us because
Yeah.
in my head, if I expand my business, I am multiplying my profits. It feels like the same thing.
So think of expansion as just simple addition. You have a central hub and you add people to it, 1 + 1 + 1.
Okay.
It works, and it looks impressive because you get these big crowds. But here's the insight. Expansion is heavy.
Heavy how? Logistically.
Logistically and logically. As you grow, your overhead grows with it. You need a bigger building, more staff, more insurance, more parking. Eventually, all your energy goes into maintaining the structure instead of the mission.
You hit a ceiling?
You hit a ceiling where you simply cannot manage one more addition. It's that mega church paradox or the big NGO paradox, right?
Right. You become a machine that just exists to feed itself.
Exactly. Now, compare that to multiplication. Multiplication isn't building a skyscraper. It's planting a forest.
Okay, I like that analogy.
A skyscraper is impressive, but it's contained. It has a hard limit. A forest, though, a forest reproduces itself. It drops seeds. It disperses life outward. And it breaks through that ceiling because it doesn't rely on one central leader or one building.
And the sources bring in some serious theological backup for this idea. They go right back to like page 1 of the Bible.
They do. Genesis 1.28. Be fruitful and multiply. And the argument here is that this isn't just a biological command. It's a design pattern for how life is supposed to work.
So if a mission strategy can't reproduce itself without a ton of outside money or professional experts, it's not really.
It's not operating according to its original design. It's like the difference between building a robot and growing a tree. The robot might be strong, but it can't make another robot. A tree can make a whole forest.
And then there's the historical context they point to. The early church didn't grow through, cathedrals and strategic plans. In fact, persecution actually accelerated the mission.
Which is so counterintuitive. Normally, you attack an organization, it shrinks.
Right.
But that only works if it's centralized. If you attack a skyscraper, you can knock it down. But you can't knock down a forest.
So when persecution scattered the early believers,
They took the mission with them because the structure was simple. It was households, relational networks, dinner tables, They didn't need a building to be the church. They just needed each other.
So the whole shift we're talking about is from thinking like a business scaling up to thinking like a living organism reproducing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But for that to work, you need the right environment. You need the right soil, to stick with the metaphor.
And the source material gets very specific about where this all happens.
Right. It emphasizes place, specifically schools and barangays.
Now, for anyone listening who isn't familiar, a barangay is basically the local neighborhood unit in the Philippines, right? The village, the block.
Correct. And these places are the modern-day agora, the marketplace of ideas and life. The argument is you can't do this mission from a distance. You have to be in it. They call it incarnational mission.
Which sounds a little academic. What does that actually mean?
It's just the theology of presence. It's based on how Jesus operated. He didn't stay in the temple. He went to the margins, to the dinner tables. He was with people. So a mission club shouldn't try to pull kids out of their world and into a church building.
It should exist in their world.
In the classroom, on the basketball court, at the street corner.
You know, there's this one case study in the notes that really painted a picture for me. It's set in a barangay.
I think I know the one you mean.
And I could just feel the heat reading it. It's noisy, it's crowded, and you have these kids playing basketball on a rusty rim in the sun.
A pretty standard scene.
Right. Now, the traditional mission approach would be, this place is messy, let's get a van, pick these kids up, and take them to our shiny, air-conditioned center to minister to them.
Extract and treat. That's the expansion mindset. Come to our better place.
Exactly. But these local students did the opposite. They just walked onto the court. No sound system, no budget, no waivers. They just brought a ball and some water. They played with them.
And that's the magic of it. In the breaks between games, wiping sweat off their foreheads, they started talking about life and then scripture. They became part of the actual scenery of that neighborhood.
So what happens? Because people might think, well, that's nice, but does it really change anything?
Well, because it was so visible and local, parents started watching from their windows. Then a few parents started bringing snacks. Teachers at the local school started noticing that these kids, who were normally pretty rowdy, were behaving better in class.
So it changed the whole atmosphere of the neighborhood.
Yes, not by pulling the kids out, but by engaging them right where they were.
And see, that's where the simplicity becomes this huge strategic advantage.
It is.
If you need a smoke machine and a sound system for your mission, you can't do it on a basketball court.
Simplicity is everything. The whole structure is just prayer, scripture, service, and reflection. That's it. Anyone can do that. And because anyone can do it, it's reproducible.
Okay, but hold on. I have to stop you there because simple enough for anyone to do sounds great on paper. But in reality, I mean, we're talking about teenagers here. College students.
Right.
If I'm a donor or a senior leader, my first thought is just chaos. You know, how do you prevent this from just turning into a hangout session where bad theology spreads or kids just goof off? Isn't there a risk in letting go of the wheel?
That is the #1 fear. It's the fear of losing control. And the source material tackles this head on. It argues that our obsession with quality control is actually what's bottling up the growth.
So we're getting in our own way.
We are. But more importantly, it warns against the leadership trap.
The hero leader problem.
Exactly. We always tend to rely on one charismatic person. Oh, John is great with kids. Let him run the whole program. But what happens when that hero graduates or moves away?
The mission dies.
The mission dies with them.
Yeah.
That is a failure of design. It's a single point of failure.
Okay, so how do you fix that without, descending into anarchy?
You treat leadership as stewardship. The model for this comes straight from 2 Timothy 2:2. Paul tells Timothy to entrust what he knows to faithful men who will be able to teach others also.
Okay, let's just count that. Paul to Timothy.
To faithful people.
To others. That's 4 generations of leadership in one sentence.
It is. And notice the key verb, entrust, not control, not micromanage. The goal isn't just to lead followers, it's to build leaders who build other leaders.
So practically, how does a 16-year-old do that?
One of the most actionable tips from the source is sending disciples out in pairs, just like Jesus did in Luke 10.
A buddy system.
It's way more than a buddy system. It's mutual accountability. It gives them confidence. I mean, if you're a young student, starting a club all by yourself is terrifying.
Right.
But doing it with a partner makes it feel possible. And for the adult facilitators, their whole role changes. You're not running the show anymore. You are mentoring the students who are running the show.
So the whole metric of success just shifts. It's not, I have 50 kids in a room listening to me.
No.
It's, I have 3 kids who are now ready to go start their own club in the next neighborhood over.
That's the identity shift.
Yeah.
You're turning participants into trainers.
But I want to go back to my fear about quality control. If you have all these independent clubs popping up, teenagers leading teenagers, how do you make sure they don't go completely off the rails? How do you keep the whole movement cohesive?
That's the tension, right?
Yeah.
Between standardization and rigidity. You need some structure, but you can't kill the vibe. And the solution the text offers is unity without uniformity.
Unity without uniformity. Unpack that for me.
Okay, so think of it like a franchise versus a family recipe. Franchise, like a fast food chain, needs every single burger to be identical, whether you're in Manila or New York. That's uniformity. It's rigid.
And usually pretty soulless, let's be honest.
Right. This model is more like a family recipe for, say, adobo. Every household cooks it a bit differently. Some like it sweeter, some deeper, some drier.
But you taste it and you know what it is.
You know it's adobo. It shares the same DNA, but the local expression is unique to the cook.
So the shared DNA for these clubs, the prayer, scripture, service part, that's the base recipe. But how they serve their specific neighborhood, that's the local flavor.
Exactly. The shared DNA comes from standardized learning modules. Things like biblical theology, servant leadership, community assessment. So everyone is speaking the same language.
But the application is different.
The application might look totally different. A club in a gritty urban high school might focus on tutoring. A club in a rural coastal village might focus on disaster relief. The core values are identical, but the application adapts to the need.
The source material also mentioned exposure trips as being part of this, and they made a really specific point that I think is important. These aren't spiritual tourism.
That's a crucial distinction. We've all seen the poverty tourism mission trips.
Yeah, you go, you paint a wall that didn't need painting, take a selfie with a local kid, and you fly home.
This is not that. These trips are designed as formational pilgrimages. The whole point is to take students out of their comfort zone to encounter need in a way that just awakens their empathy.
Like that example of the fishing village.
Yes, taking students to a village that's recovering from a typhoon. They're not just there to take photos. They're there to listen, to serve, and to let that reality shatter their indifference. It awakens a vocational calling.
So when they go back to their own school, they see it differently.
They see their own context as a mission field, too.
Okay, so we have the structure, we have the leadership model, the shared DNA. But here's the million-dollar question in the nonprofit world. How do you know if it's working? Because we are obsessed with butts and seats. Attendance is king.
And that is the metric trap. The source argues we have to stop measuring just attendance and start measuring faithfulness and fruitfulness.
Okay, I get the philosophy, and it sounds beautiful. But let's be real. Try putting transformational stories into an Excel spreadsheet for a board meeting. How does an organization actually measure this without it just feeling fluffy?
It is harder, no doubt about it. It requires a shift from counting heads to tracking lineage.
Tracking lineage.
Yeah. You measure reproduction.
Yeah.
How many new clubs were spawned from this one? That's a key metric. You measure leadership. How many of your participants went on to become mentors themselves? And yes, you measure stories.
So you're essentially mapping a family tree instead of just counting the population.
Precisely.
Uh-huh.
And regarding the stories, take a narrative testimony. For example, a former gang member reconciling with his community because of the club's influence. That is a data point. It tells you transformation is happening.
So it's about tracking impact, not just activity.
And the so what here
Yeah.
is that this tracking isn't about bureaucracy. It's about stewardship. It's asking that question from the parable of the talents. What did we do with what was entrusted to us? If we're just hoarding people in a room, maybe we're burying the talent. But if we're sending them out to start new things, we're multiplying it.
It really connects right back to that opening idea. National transformation doesn't start with some big decree from the top.
No, it starts with local faithfulness. That's the big picture. The source quotes Habakkuk 2.16. The earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord.
And the argument is that this happens drop by drop.
Club by club, barangay by barangay.
It's a bit daunting, though. It puts the responsibility back on all of us. You can't just write a check and feel like you've done your part.
It does. But look at the visual the author leaves us with. Imagine a map of your city. Right now, you might see a few big red dots where the big churches or centers are. They're bright, but they're few and far between.
And there's a lot of dark space in between them.
The vision here is to see that map covered in thousands of tiny pinpricks of light, in schools, on street corners, in living rooms. Each one isn't as bright individually, but collectively.
It illuminates the whole map.
That's the Habakkuk moment. The earth filled with knowledge like waters cover the sea.
So the real question for you, for anyone listening, is, are you building a spotlight or are you lighting a candle? That gives me chills a little bit because it really puts the ball in our court. It makes you ask, if every motivated young person in my context could start just one mission club, what would my community look like in 5 years?
And the follow-up question, why aren't we building for that future already?
So for everyone listening, I think this is the takeaway. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for the perfect strategic plan.
Find 2 friends. Pick a place, a classroom, a park bench, your living room, and just start. Obedience comes before perfection.
Start small, but dream of multiplication. Something to chew on. Thanks for diving in with us today.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll catch you on the next Deep Dive.